Welcome to Telesur. This is from the south, from our studios in Caracas, Venezuela. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Let's begin with our stories. We start with Brazil. Citizens have taken to the streets of Rio de Janeiro to reject once again far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro, 5 days ahead of the presidential runoff election. They fear that if Bolsonaro wins, he could install an authoritarian government. The movement, called Ele Now or Not Him, says supporting Haddad is the only way to guarantee democracy. Protesters also released colorful balloons to defend Brazil's diversity.
We are here not to cry. We are here to win the elections. Haddad for president. It was a big struggle to get it here. It was a big struggle to fight against the military regime. We want democracy. We want the continuity of a democratic form of government. We did not come here to cry. We are here to celebrate. Today is the celebration of democracy. A democracy on the streets. Haddad now.
Meanwhile, the Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad has spoken on the lies that he says were created as a campaign strategy by his opponent, Bolsonaro.
What they have done against me and my family does not make any sense. They reached a point in which they stole a Bible that was a gift to say they found it in the trash. The bishop who gave me that Bible came yesterday from Fortaleza to Sao Paulo to give me another Bible. They are really the worst of the worst. I am very sorry we have to go through all of this, because it is very sad. It is very sad what Bolsonaro represents.
Earlier, we talked to Karina Damus, researcher in political science at the University of Brasilia, who analyzed the rise of the right-wing candidate Jair Bolsonaro.
Now, it's very shocking that we got this point, that having this far-right candidate that is openly despises democratic institutions and despises gender equality and despises have a racist and has a homophobic point of views and is gaining support. There is a massive disbelief in politics and the political system in Brazil right now. It also combined with a very strong anti-party workers' feelings, especially widespread, especially among the richest segments of the population.
More than 147 million Brazilians will choose the country's 38th president. So what is at the top of the voters' minds, and how do they rate the campaign promises of both candidates? We have more on our special series, Brazil Decides.
In this runoff election, no doubt, the stakes are high for Latin America's largest economy. On the one hand, we have Jair Bolsonaro, who is promising to privatize every state company and become closer to the United States. On the other, we have Fernando Haddad, who is promising tax reforms to benefit the most vulnerable and enhance the country's visibility in different international blocs. But what do Brazilians think about these two very different policies?
We are already struggling, and privatization will make everything worse.
Privatization causes unemployment. Every voter has to analyze each proposal and see what is best for Brazil.
Voters are also worried about Brazil's sovereignty.
Unfortunately, I will give my vote to the Workers' Party, but not because I support them, but because there is no other choice. I am against selling the best that the country has. And that is why I am not supporting Bolsonaro.
Privatizing our resources is just an international demand to enter our country.
Experts are also thinking about Brazil's international influence if Bolsonaro assumes office.
He hasn't been clear about his international stance, that is, how he wants to position the country internationally. He hasn't explained any international policy that is not linked to the countries of the North.
Now, the fate of Brazil is in the hands of the voters, who will decide their future on October 28th.
Moving on to Mexico, the caravan of Central American migrants continues to move through the country despite threats from the U.S. and Mexican governments to break it up. The caravan is made of thousands of migrants who are fleeing violence and poverty in their homelands. They are still more than 1,000 kilometers away from the U.S. border. Many people in Mexico are expressing their solidarity with this caravan.
The only thing I can say to people is that they should be more human, that we should look into our hearts and imagine ourselves in their shoes. Because what they're doing isn't easy. Us Mexicans like to criticize Donald Trump for the way he treats our people in the United States. And now we are acting just like him. We don't have any walls on our border, but sometimes we ourselves are the wall.
And babies and toddlers are part of this U.S.-bound migrant caravan. Children who can walk remain close to their parents, and they continue along this difficult journey. Dehydration and exhaustion are the main and most dangerous risks they face on their way towards a better future in the U.S.
The children ask when we are going to arrive to the United States because they can't stand it anymore. They don't want to sleep here. They are hungry and tired.
They are exhausted, totally exhausted. We carry those who can't walk. We carry in our arms.
But Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto insists that the caravan will not be able to cross to the U.S. border.
Those who are part of this caravan are acting outside the law. I call on them to reconsider your decision, because if you continue with this, you will hardly be able to cross the United States or to legally stay in Mexico.
Our correspondent Pablo Perez is at the border between Guatemala and Mexico and brings us this report.
I'm standing on the shore of the Suchiate River. As we can see behind me is the bridge that divides the two countries. Where I'm standing now is an area known as the Coyotes Crossing. Rafts called camaras continue to move back and forth. They not only carry passengers, but also merchandise. Many of the migrants who came here from Honduras, after seeing that the bridge crossing has been closed by Mexican authorities, decided to instead use these rafts to cross the river and continue on their trek towards the U.S.
That was Pablo Perez from the border. Hundreds of Honduran migrants are stuck at the border trying to cross to Mexico.
They have spent more than 4 days here at the border between Guatemala and Mexico.
We want them to open the gate even if they let us through little by little. That is what we are asking God.
Help from the community has been fundamental to their survival. Travelers can get a meal at their makeshift camp thanks to their generosity.
We all been through this, all countries. We all have been migrants sometime. My mom was a migrant.
People are still trying to make their way across the Suchiate River. The government of Honduras said that a large part of the caravan has already returned.
He's going to trick his people. Here we are the ones who are hungry, who don't have a job. We suffer each day in the country. There aren't any jobs unless you are with the ruling party.
Women, many of them with small children, say that traveling in large numbers makes them feel safe during the dangerous journey.
We are not going back because what we want is to work. We don't want to go back because there aren't any jobs there.
The president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, warned the migrants that they won't reach their destination illegally. After more than 10 days on the road and now being stranded at the border, hasn't broken their morale. They remain determined.
And after the warnings of U.S. President Donald Trump, some migrants have called on Canada to provide them with asylum.
These people love Honduras, but they are here because the country has too many problems. They are refugees, and if they go back, they will be imprisoned or even killed. People are already receiving threats if they ever go back. So what we are asking the world, especially Canada, is to give us shelter. Because we already know that in the United States, Donald Trump doesn't want us. The situation in Honduras is critical. That is why people are migrating. We ask for support from human rights organizations and for any country to give us political asylum.
Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernández says this migration flow is a shared responsibility.
We were the first, the Hondurans, to ask other countries for shared responsibility, because the migration is directly linked, among other factors, to the crossing of drugs through Central American countries, drugs that are produced in the south and are consumed in the north of the continent.
On their part, human rights organizations in Honduras have asked the Mexican government to protect migrants.
Children, teenagers, and senior citizens' lives are at risk. So we urge authorities to guarantee the right to safe migration and other human rights for our people.
I think Donald Trump's politics have increased migration. He's not stopping migrants. All those people's going won't stop. They're gonna continue advancing.
Social movements in Honduras plan to march from the city of La Barca to the capital Tegucigalpa to demand the resignation of President Juan Orlando Hernández. Our correspondent Hugo Vera has more details.
We are in La Barca, about 4 hours far from Tegucigalpa. Social movements and citizens will start marching in a few hours to ask for the resignation of President Juan Orlando Hernández. They said the president has to react to the situation the country is facing. They say Honduras is marred by corruption, which according to them has led to the massive exodus. Another issue they say is rampant is insecurity. These events have happened just as there are official calls for an investigation of Juan Orlando Hernández for corruption.
That was our correspondent Hugo Vera. Coming up, we have more stories. But meanwhile, you can follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and my personal account at Carla G. Telesur. So give us a share and follow us. We'll be back. Welcome back. Hurricane Willa has made landfall on Mexico's Pacific coast. 19 municipalities have been declared in a state of extraordinary emergency. Hurricane Willa reached Category 5 on Monday, but has since weakened to 4. Still, authorities are making a call for citizens to prepare for the storms. People living on the western coast of Mexico have taken refuge in schools and other shelters to protect themselves. Residents in the cities of Escuinapa and Mazatlan sealed off their windows and doors with wooden planks. Families have also been evacuated from tourist resorts.
Material objects are just that, objects. Our lives is what they want to be able to return to. If we lack something, I hope God will provide it. Since we left, we go back.
Thousands of people in Venezuela have been affected by torrential rains. Capital Caracas has seen heavy flooding in the past days as riverbanks burst. Hundreds of people have been evacuated from their homes. Authorities have opened 400 shelters around the country for those in need. Still in Venezuela, several urban farmers are sowing seeds of hope and a new agricultural revolution as they harvest produce from more than 40,000 hectares of farmland.
This is how a so-called Mountain Fighters Day begins in Cacique Tiuna, right here in the heart of Caracas. A sizable harvest of vegetables and fruits grown on 12 hectares of land will now be distributed for sale to thousands of families.
Good morning, friends. How are you?
What are we going to do today?
Well, we are going to plant paprika and afterwards we will cut the seeds. What we are doing is offering agriculture classes in schools. This is directly from the producer to the community.
Griberth is one of 18 farmers who lives on this land.
I came to visit my family and I found this beautiful farmland. My family is working here and I am fighting here with them.
Blades, seeds, and their bare hands are the only tools these farmers are using to cultivate the land. Luis wants to keep developing a strong culture of farming the land, thereby helping the community.
Here in Caracas, there are people who work. We want to open an exchange with other farmers so we can all sell high-quality crops that Venezuelans deserve. So we want to bring together all farmers here in Caracas.
This Cacique Tiuna community can be an example to the rest of the country's farming sector. It also promotes farming not only in the countryside but also in the city.
A group of Venezuelan migrants is leaving Peru to return to their country. This as part of the 8th return to the homeland flight that has left from Lima. Our correspondent Jaime Herrera brings us more.
Here at Lima's International Airport, 98 Venezuelans are boarding the 8th flight leaving from Peru as part of the Return to Homeland plan. Among them are 27 children, 11 women, and 23 people who are sick and couldn't get medical services due to lack of money, making their condition even worse. Many of them say that they were expecting to improve their quality of life, but what they found here is strenuous work conditions that hurt their health. This flight will take them back to their homes in Venezuela.
Jaime Herrera from Peru. Colombian teachers' unions are staging a 24-hour national strike to demand a better budget for public education. About 220,000 teachers are marching in different cities across Colombia. Protesters want the government of Iván Duque to comply with agreements made to increase the budget signed back in June 2017. Our correspondent in Bogotá, José Manuel Jiménez, brings us more on this strike.
The nationwide teacher strike has started in Colombia. It will last for 24 hours as teachers demand that the government upholds previous budget agreements made last year. Unions insist that this is the duty of the government, and they say they need to improve the infrastructure of many schools now falling apart. They also demand that policies be put in place to guarantee public education for all, regardless of who's in power. This strike is happening on the heels of the murder of a teacher and indigenous social leader, José Domingo Ulcua, in the department of Santander. Teachers in the region continue to be threatened and be victimized in the armed conflict. In 2018 alone, 173 social leaders have been killed. Today's demonstrations began here, outside the Ministry of Education, and will make its way to Plaza Bolívar.
And on the eve of the teachers' strike, yet another social leader has been murdered in Colombia. Indigenous teacher José Domingo Ulcué was shot in the chest in the department of Santander. He is the 31st social leader killed since Iván Duque took office last August. Let's go to another story. Salvador Sánchez Serén. Yes, we are seeing images of the story that we just discussed, the Colombian social leader that was killed. But now we go to the story of Sánchez Serén in Cuba. He explained that his official visit is aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two countries. Cuba and El Salvador have important ties in key areas such as trade and education. Sánchez Serén will remain in Cuba until Saturday. The first national fair for entrepreneurial women is taking place in El Salvador. It's aimed at making high-quality products available to the people.
75 entrepreneur women are showcasing and marketing garments, shoes, bags, and wallets, as well as handicrafts, food and drinks. Industriousness and the creative potential of El Salvadoran women becomes apparent in the diversity of products.
This is to show that these women are capable of being entrepreneurs and are building their own businesses. They are even providing jobs to other women.
The first National Entrepreneurial Fair is a showcase for Reina Ferrufino, who makes embroidered clothes along with her mother-in-law. They have a workshop in a small town in the east of the country.
Our business increased and we expanded our workshop. We have a team of almost industrial size. We already have industrial machinery, embroidery machines. We give work to 6 women in the community. Besides, this is a family business. My husband, my son, my daughter, even our grandchildren, they all work here.
This fair also reaches people who make handicrafts, art and drawings. That is the case of the young artist Mallory Vázquez, who was trained at the Female Enterprise School and Ciudad Mujer.
They have given me the opportunity to prepare a business plan and gave me the support I needed to make this artwork, because at first I only did it per order, but they convinced me to have an inventory and exhibit it. That's how this started.
Ciudad Mujer has trained over 67,000 women since its creation in 2011. It has also facilitated access to credit for more than 4,900 entrepreneurs at ideal rates, which allow them to empower themselves and gain economic independence.
A group of 800-year-old figures have been unveiled in an archaeological complex in northern Peru. 20 anthropomorphic wooden sculptures were found inside an adobe wall in a corridor decorated with high-relief drawings. These are the oldest idols discovered, which belong to the Chan-Chan culture. Some of the figures have what appears to be shields, and others have decapitated heads. We'll take one last short break, but stay with us. And we're back. United States National Security Advisor John Bolton has met with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the deteriorating relationship between both countries. Let's hear what both of them said.
Frankly speaking, it is sometimes surprising for us to see the United States taking unprovoked steps against Russia, which we cannot call friendly. Basically, we don't even respond to any of your steps, but it still goes on and on.
And to begin, as you indicated, I think President Trump would look forward to seeing you in Paris on the sideline of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the armistice. Because despite our differences, which exist because of our different national interests, it's still important to work in areas where there's a possibility of mutual cooperation.
The presidents of Nigeria and Benin have inaugurated a new border crossing. This new post is intended to facilitate movement of both people and goods between the two countries.
Bringing our border administrations closer together in the same place will help to improve their respective performance and the ease of movement of people and their goods.
We need to measure any success in real changes for people coming to the border post. So in terms of having shorter transition time, having less extortion, not seeing as much corruption taking place, less harassment.
Hundreds of people have demonstrated in Central African Republic's capital, Bangui, against the dismissal of the President of the National Assembly, Karim Mekasowa. The parliament's vote is scheduled for Friday, and the dismissal would need 93 votes in order to be passed. Mekasowa is accused of alleged breach of responsibility, and political opponents say there are doubts about his finances.
The President of the Assembly and the head of the state are elected for 5 years. It is through social cohesion, through dialogue, that we can solve the problem. The moment is not at the division. Among us, there are Christians and Muslims who have come to demonstrate it.
Zimbabwe's opposition leader Nelson Chamisa has called for a dialogue with the government to resolve the country's worsening economic crisis. Chamisa has accused President Emerson Mnangagwa of failing to take action, leading to an economic meltdown that has caused severe shortages. The deepening economic crisis comes less than 3 months after Mnangagwa won the general election in July.
What is definitely clear is that there is absence of leadership. The nation is orphaned. The nation is parentless. And what is necessitated this is obviously the conduct and behavior of Mr. Mnangagwa and his team.
Police in South Africa have used rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse crowds in the Johannesburg Central Business District. According to the police, protesters against drugs and drug dealers started acting violently when they had to step in. Nigerian business owners in the area have described the violent protests as racist attacks, as they had been unfairly targeted by protesters. A South African government minister has declared his intention to take action on those behind the theft of millions of dollars stolen from a local bank that subsequently collapsed. Local governance minister Zweli Makise told Parliament that he had instructed lawyers to launch a lawsuit on this matter so that they must chase and try to recover the money.
That's Sean, then. You have John straight ahead. That's Sean.
Now, with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But this and many other stories, you can find them on our website. We are at telesurtv.net/English. You can find all our information here, so go check it out. And you can also follow us on social media. I'm Carla Gonzalez for Telesur English, and until next time, thank you for watching Telesur Connecting the Global South.